For decades, support for Israel has been one of Washington's most durable bipartisan commitments. But recently, more than 100 House Democrats backed an amendment seeking to block billions of dollars in Israel-related assistance. For Dan Steinbock, the vote points to a much larger question. Is America's political consensus over Israel beginning to break? Economist Dan Steinbock argues that it is. In his article, The Collapse of the Bipartisan Consensus over U.S.-Israel Ties, he describes a political divide increasingly cutting across traditional party lines. For decades, disagreements over American foreign policy rarely threatened the underlying bipartisan commitment to Israel. Gaza, Steinbock argues, has changed that equation. The clearest sign came from Congress. More than 100 House Democrats supported the amendment, a significant demonstration of opposition from within the party. House Democratic leadership, including Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, has also called for a major reset in relations with the Israeli government. For Steinbock, these developments represent more than a dispute over assistance. They suggest that political assumptions once considered almost untouchable are now being openly contested. And the fracture is not confined to Democrats. Anti-interventionist voices associated with the America First movement have also questioned continued American involvement and support for Israel's war. The debate, Steinbock argues, is no longer simply pro-Israel versus anti-Israel. Instead, competing ideas about America's role in the world are increasingly colliding. Steinbock then moves from politics to a more contentious question: accountability. Legal organizations and advocacy groups have pursued cases and petitions seeking scrutiny of American support for Israel's campaign in Gaza. One case, Defense for Children International versus Biden, challenged U.S. policy through the federal courts. The case was dismissed on political question grounds. It did not produce a finding that American officials were guilty of genocide or complicity in genocide. Other organizations have pursued international avenues. The advocacy organization Dawn submitted a request asking the International Criminal Court to investigate former senior U.S. officials over allegations connected to American support for Israel. These are allegations and requests for investigation, not criminal convictions or findings of guilt. But they bring a difficult question into view. Where does political responsibility end and legal accountability begin? Steinbock also points to what he sees as an accountability gap in Washington. Senior officials involved in American foreign policy during the Gaza war later moved into academia, consulting, publishing, and other institutions. Their post-government careers are not evidence of wrongdoing. Steinbock's argument is structural. When consequential foreign policy decisions produce devastating outcomes, how should responsibility ultimately be assessed? That takes Steinbock's argument beyond Israel and Gaza. The larger issue, he contends, is American credibility. Washington presents itself as a defender of international law and a rules-based international order. But Steinbock argues that those principles lose credibility when strategic exceptions appear to override them. For him, Gaza has exposed that contradiction with unusual force. Whatever the long-term political consequences, the debate itself has changed. Positions once pushed toward the margins are now being contested in Congress, challenged from different parts of the political spectrum, and pursued through domestic and international legal institutions. Whether that produces a lasting political realignment remains an open question. Steinbock's conclusion, however, is unequivocal. There can be no simple return to the status quo ante Gaza. Steinbock explores questions of Gaza, international law, and Western policy and accountability in his work, including the Obliteration Doctrine, Genocide Prevention, Israel, Gaza, and the West, published by Clarity Press. His argument ultimately reaches beyond one administration or one war. It asks what these events mean for the credibility and future of the international order itself.